Hi everyone, I am here today to talk about what I plan to read this summer, more accurately my reading goals for this summer. Of course, summer reading is always a big thing because of, school being out. I know that doesn't affect everybody, but it does affect me because I'm a teacher. So I do have more time over the summer and I usually try to accomplish specific small little goals when I have this more flexible schedule. During the summer I am still working. It's just that I have an easier time deciding exactly what I'm going to do with my time. I have mentioned before that I'm really bad at TBRs in the sense that I don't like them. I have a ton of books, like hundreds of books technically on my TBR, over 1,000 I think. I don't make monthly TBRs and I don't even completely make seasonal TBRs just because I'm very much a mood reader, and if I set out a specific list of books that I want to read in a short amount of time, I get tired of just the idea of them and I go off the rails. So I don't have a specific like summer reading TBR. I just have different goals I try to accomplish. This year, my reading has really not been great for me. Like, I know that technically I have read more books than, some people read all year, but I'll put the numbers from last year and this year just for comparison's sake. I have read so far 42 books this year, which, like I said, is great. That's like a really good, healthy number. I'm aware of that. It's what I spend a lot of my free time doing. However, last year at this time, I had read 72 books, which is more on par with what I typically do. And so I would like to get back to that pace, maybe not quite that intense. I definitely don't think I'm going to read, like 50 books over the next couple of months, the next 2-3 months. But I do want to use this time, hopefully, to improve my reading just overall. I am also, on top of just not reading quite as much, I'm also finding it harder this year to pay attention to a lot of books. They're just like not catching my interest. And I was looking through everything I read so far this year, and there's definitely a big trend of the books that have stood out to me have been like sci-fi speculative, which I've always enjoyed, but they've never been like the standout books to me. So I might have to lean into that a little bit more over the next couple of months. I think that's like my main goal for summer, is just trying to catch up. And not only that, like, it's not just a quantity thing, but I also want to make sure that I'm actually enjoying myself again. Not that I'm not enjoying myself at all. It's been a little bit of a struggle to find that. But in my book club starting tomorrow, hopefully I get this video up today, starting May 27th, we are going to do a readathon for a week in my book club. And so I do have a specific TBR for that to meet those challenges. And so I thought that I would just share those with you, the ones that I have picked out. One of our challenges is to read a book that makes you nostalgic. And this book I have not actually read, so technically it can't make me nostalgic. However, Colette, the author, does make me nostalgic. So this is a book about I think an older woman and this young man that she has an affair with, and they are going through a breakup. I just really love Colette as an author, and I was kind of obsessed with her when I was a teenager. Claudine at school, Claudine à l'école, was one of the first books in French that I wanted to read once I got proficient enough in French to be able to do that. And so I do have this in French, but I also have, this is the movie tie-in edition, but I also have a version in English just in case. I haven't read a book in French in a few years. I'm going to give it a go, and hopefully that'll be like two birds with one stone, like meeting this challenge for my book club readathon while also just brushing up on my French a little bit. For a book outside of my comfort zone, I chose Blueberries, which is Essays Concerning Understanding by Elena Savage. It was actually really hard for me to find a book outside of my comfort zone because I read so many different genres. There's just not much that I'm not comfortable with. So I chose this just because I don't read essays very often. Like, that was really the only reason. I don't know much about this other than that it's essays concerning understanding. One of our challenges was to read a book that had been on our TBRs for a long time, but some of us were saying that we would have a hard time picking one because we all have like massive TBRs and they're years and years old. And so we each chose 5 books from our TBR that were, had been there for quite a while, and then we voted on them for each other. And so the book that Book Club chose for me, they voted for this one, City of Thieves by David Benioff. He wrote this before he became well known for Game of Thrones, which I haven't. I don't really care about Game of Thrones. I've never really watched it or anything. Yeah, this came out in 2008, 2009. So this was written before he got known for that. And I'm just pretty curious what it will be like. I have no baggage or context or whatever for, what he wrote for a TV show. So of course everybody voted for this one though. I should have known, making it one of the 5 for them to choose from, that everybody would vote for this given the author. So our next challenge, it was to choose an author's debut book, and I chose this one. I looked up on Goodreads, blurb, it said it was a debut, but then on the bottom it says author of A Selfie as Big as the Ritz, which I don't doesn't that mean this is not her debut? I don't know. I decided I didn't care that Goodreads says it's her debut, so I'm just gonna go with it. I think this is Supper Club by Laura Williams. It sort of ticks some boxes for me. It says that this group of women invent the Supper Club, a transgressive and joyous collective of women who celebrate rather than admonish their hungers. They gather after dark and feast until they are sick. They break into private buildings and leave carnage in their wake. They embrace their changing bodies. They stop apologizing. For these women, the club is a way to explore, discover, and push the boundaries of the space they take up in the world and reclaim it. So it sounds really interesting. I think the ratings are relatively low on Goodreads, but I'll know a week from now how I feel about it. We also have a book under 200 pages as one of our challenges, and so I thought, what a good opportunity to go for some poetry. And so I've chosen Field by Joss Charles. This just sounds so interesting. I think the author, they do a lot of playing with language in a historical sense, so there's some like phonetic spelling. I think that they are playing with English in the way that it was written before the language and the spelling was standardized. I have studied the history of the English language, history of the French language, and so I'm really curious to see how this author decided to play with language. 6th challenge was to choose a book in translation, and so I chose Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, maybe? And this won the Booker Prize, the International Booker Prize, a few years ago. And so I've owned this book since then, and I thought, again, this readathon is just a good excuse to then do that. We do have a 7th challenge, which is to read 7 books in the week, and I'm leaving that one open because, like I said, TBRs and I do not get along, and so I want to use that 7th book as just an opportunity to read what the heck I want. Whatever I feel like in that moment, if I look at that TBR anytime in the next week and just get really turned off by it. But I am hoping to read 7 books over the next week, and hopefully that will like jumpstart my reading just a little bit more generally, get me off to a good start this summer. I do have another goal this summer, which is to continue my Stormlight Archive reread. I'm on Oathbringer. The first time that I read Oathbringer, I listened to it on audio, which I shouldn't have done. So I want to actually read the physical copy this time. I typically read a Stormlight Archive book over summer just because of the vast amounts of time, and these books are all like 1,200 pages, and that's intimidating, and so I don't want to do that when I'm also like just really stressed during the regular school year. I forgot to mention, one of my goals is also to try to finish the rest of the books on the Women's Prize shortlist. If I don't get to all of those and then a different book that I have not read wins, make sure I definitely read that book. That happened to me last year where I read the entire shortlist except for one book, and then that one book won. So I wouldn't be surprised if I just like happen to choose books that are not going to win. I'm almost through. I have 2 more books. I have DNF 2 books, and I might give them another go. We'll see how the next couple weeks. I think the winner announced June 17th or 27th, something like that. So I should have plenty of time to get to those last couple of books from the shortlist. So that's another goal that I have for this summer, is to finish that up. Speaking of prizes, I will probably take a look at the Booker Prize long list. It's something that I look at, but it's not the most interesting prize to me, especially just the last, I don't know, like 5 years or so. I just haven't been super into those books, and so we'll see if anything strikes my interest with that prize. So that's it for my summer reading plans. I have some other goals that are sort of aspirational, perhaps, like reading more nonfiction, you know, getting my TBR down, you know, reading all the books and not buying things as much. So I do like have this set of goals that are constantly just in the back of my head. Oh, and I also want to do some reading for work, just some like, you know, professional development type reading, but I haven't decided exactly what those books are going to be yet. So let me know what your plans are for summer. Do you just read certain genres over the summer? Do you also try to pack a whole lot of reading in during this time, or does it not mean anything at all to you because you have absolutely no connection to the education system in the US? That's probably very likely for a lot of people. I will hopefully be back in about a week or so with a vlog talking about how this book club readathon went over the next week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.